So this week's talk is called Nobody Told Me I Could Fly. And I'll be discussing challenges and issues that my tablet just went down. Okay. You know, I did tell you, right, that last time that I was told I was not sustainable. And a friend was over at my house and they looked at all of my papers and they were like, "You are not sustainable." And I said, "What?" And anyway, so now I'm using a tablet and I'm not skilled at it. So there you go. So anyway, I'm also going to be talking about ways in which we can be greater than we think. But I want to start with a poem that I came across recently. It's called Roseros, and it's by Jane Gallion. It's true, I've changed. I can't deny it. I have another name hidden in the heart of the old, not a new me, but different. You sense it, the scream of the butterfly before deep sleep. My wings are so new, crushed and still damp. If the juices filling them bring such pain, I cry out, "Help me, help." No one ever told me what it was like to endure this metamorphosis. I was just expecting to be able to fly. So the caterpillar's metamorphosis is a frequent metaphor for dramatic transformations, and it's truly a fantastic thing that happens in nature. Some of you probably know this more than I do, but I did some research. And after the caterpillar, or now we're going to call it a larva, molts about 5 times, the larva stops feeding, hangs upside down from a twig or a leaf, and then either spins a cocoon or molts into a shiny chrysalis. Okay, so now it enters a stage known as pupation. The process is driven primarily by hormones. And once the larva reaches its final molt and it begins its metamorphosis, strange things are happening inside that chrysalis. And cells in the larva's muscles, the gut, and the salivary glands are digested, and they act as spare parts for the soon-to-be butterfly. Each cell is programmed to actually self-destruct, and the activation of the enzymes is called caspasis. The process of the metamorphosis can take anywhere from a few weeks to several months. And during this time, that butterfly is vulnerable to predators. But for those that make it through, the end result is unparalleled beauty, grace, and elegance. Well, this might seem really fantastic from the outside. The transformation is actually pretty gruesome. And I watched a video of it so that I knew what it was like for today. And I think that it must be incredibly painful on some level. I don't know. Nothing was able to answer that question because I don't think they've tested the pain tolerance during metamorphosis. But I know that I'm not alone in going through a metamorphosis. I have been through several in my life. And in fact, I'm going through one right now. We all are. We are influenced by everything around us, and we change just a little bit every day. And like the caterpillar to the butterfly, it's pretty much an inside job. So in some ways, this talk is really about a call to action. We are in some pretty heavy, controversial times in our culture. It's a kind of pupation, much like the butterfly. In a paper by Richard Rohr called Falling Upward, he stated, "There is no practical or compelling reason to leave one's present comfort zone in life. Why should you or want to? Frankly, none of us do unless we have to or we are told to. The invitation is probably unexpected and unsought. If we seek spiritual heroism and growth only for ourselves, the old ego is just back in control under a new name. There would not really be any change at all, but only disguise, just bogus self-improvement on our own terms. Any attempt to engineer or plan our own enlightenment is doomed to failure because it will be ego-driven. You will only see what you have already decided to look for, and you cannot see what you are not ready or told to look for. So failure and humiliation force you to look where you would never look otherwise. What an enigma, he says. Self-help courses of any type will help you only if they teach you to pay attention to life itself. God comes to us as life. Unfortunately, with that, I think that our individual actions do not determine whether we are a good or a bad person. We cannot assume in our judgments that someone is good and that they have never done anything bad, and vice versa, that someone is bad and that they have never done anything good in their lifetime. When we do not look at the whole picture, we risk accuracy of our judgments and statements. Ralph Waldo Trine, one of the many who influenced Ernest Holmes, said in his book, In Tune with the Infinite, in 1897, we are born into a strange time, a time that tries men's souls. Bewilderment and fear hold many. Change and uncertainty stalk the land, all lands. Those who keep up their courage and go serenely on are coming through in a way that those who weaken or lie down can never know. But to do this, many lives need help. Real, concrete help. Courage has power and magic in it. And Reverend Dr. David Alexander, the senior minister at CSL Atlanta, recently stated in an online newsletter, The New Thought Evolution, that the role of the prophetic voice in spiritual communities is not to take sides on political topics, but rather to cut through the fake and divisive narrative and call humanity back to its senses. Alexander continued to declare, as seekers of higher consciousness through the practice of new thought, our responsibility is to snatch from the jaws of political cannibalism the subjects of human dignity, justice, and equality, and place them back on the altar of humanity where they belong. Unfortunately, people are wary about talking about controversy. And sometimes we hide from and avoid conversations. We've stopped talking about the politics of our lives. We have stopped asking questions, and we have stopped listening. And if we do talk and we question and we listen, we do it quietly. Because in new thought, I think on some level we have become somewhat apathetic to the issues in our culture. But I can assure you that every one of us feels the fear of what is happening because the actions of others make no sense to what we have known, to what we are comfortable with, and to what we believe. We are in a pupation. Now, I know that somewhere we've been told in New Thought to separate our politics from our spirituality. But the truth is that we cannot. The personal is political. And that's an old saying from the women's movement in the 70s. And I remember the first time I heard it, and it was like, oh, something clicked in my head. And it's a statement I've always believed in. The personal is political. The way I live my life, the way I present, the way I represent is absolutely a personal and political choice. And in Carolyn Meiss's Salon newsletter from 2006, she asks us, where are you on the spiritual path and for what reason? She continued stating, if it's just for you, then you do not understand the purpose of the spiritual path at all. You go on the spiritual path to refine your soul so that you can reemerge and use your soul to benefit the lives of others. Your soul does not belong to you. It belongs to the divine. It's as much public property as it is your personal property, precisely because your soul affects the whole. So instead of staying comfortable in our own skins, we might ask ourselves, why is there so much seemingly irrational fear in our culture and within me? Well, I don't know, but most fears are irrational, but that's never stopped some individuals from pushing their agendas in either the individual or the collective consciousness. And make no mistake, we are in a campaign for a cultural collective consciousness. We cannot afford to stand by and quietly calculate how speaking up in our spiritual communities, as too many in New Thought have done on other issues over the years. Speaking up comes with a cost, but it's not the cost that's calculated in the offerings or in attendance. The cost is calculated not what happens after we speak, but what happens when we do not. The truth is, the world is not as binary or polarized as good or bad as we are being asked to believe. There is not only black and white, but there are many skin colors. There is not only day or night, there is also a dusk and a dawn. Yet we are being told believe that it is binary, that it's good or bad, over and over and over again. And we know when something is repeated over and over and over again, and it is not challenged, it becomes truth through common knowledge. What will it take to move us beyond these dangerously false political and sociological ideologies that are being paraded as truth in our culture? For those in New Thought, I ask you, as we hold high watch meditations and we pray, when and how do we hold our heads high in the public domain and plead for a more sane discourse? New Thought adherents suggest that seeing wrong things in the world rather than only the perfection of the world perpetuates those wrongs because what we think about grows. We've all heard that. What we think about grows. Others argue that prayer and visualizing a world that works for everyone, which is the Centers for Spiritual Living motto right now, working for a world that works for everyone, is where our responsibility begins and ends. Affirmative prayer alone will carry the day, but Holmes did not ignore or deny the world of effect. Holmes saw a role for both action and prayer. As I noted in my last talk here, we use affirmative prayer. We treat and move our feet. Harv Bishop, in his online newsletter, Re-Envisioning Spirituality, declares that Holmes believed New Thought could walk and chew gum at the same time. Holmes saw both the world as it can be as consciousness is raised, and he saw the world as it was. And Holmes did not shy away from calling out what he saw as mistaken priorities during this time. He often spoke about the upcoming war. He often spoke about the spending of our government. And he often spoke about race issues. Today, in New Thought, some practitioners who lean to the right politically say New Thought ministers should only be in the business of growing individual consciousness and, like 12-step programs, avoid political issues. Others charge that the mission of creating this world that works for everyone naturally favors utopian issues that are embraced by left-leaning New Thought members, such as peace, equality, and the environment. However, they also say that ministers should keep to spiritual matters and stay away from politics. The solution to this dilemma of duality is that Holmes also said in his Sermon by the Sea, is to be someone who is for something and against nothing. To be someone who is for something and against nothing. And to be one who is redeemed enough not to condemn others. If we truly believe in the New Thought paradigm to create a world that works for everyone, then this is who we want to become. This is how we can change the discourse, to be someone who stands for what we believe and continue to see the love of God in everyone who may disagree. The love of God who is in everyone, to set our face in the direction of the mountain, and then to simply journey on, whether we move slowly or quickly, eventually we will bring one to the top. But unless we set our face in the right direction and make the start, we will not reach it. It was Goethe who said, "Are you in earnest? Seize this very moment. What you can do or dream, you can. Begin it." Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Only engage, and then the mind grows heated. Begin, then the work will be completed. Each of us, if we choose, can make a difference. Each one of us could make a difference, like Holmes, like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, the Dalai Lama, or one of the Kennedys. That list goes on and on. Who are your heroes? Who inspires you? The reason that you know them is because they took a stand, they spoke up, maybe they wrote a book, but they're in the public domain. Ralph Waldo Trine also wrote, "There are those of us who are living far below their possibilities because they are continually handing over their individualities to others. If you want to be a power in the world," Trine says, "then be yourself." Our goal will be to remember that there is only one God, one divine spirit, one living presence that resides in everyone and everything. So search yourselves, find that disquiet that lives within you and talk about it. Tell others, discuss it, discuss all the parameters of those issues. It will not be easy, but it is necessary. Be gentle with yourself. Pupation is a process. You will emerge and fly. Anybody in here a Whovian that follows Doctor Who? Doctor Who's motto is never cruel, never cowardly, never give up, never give in. I love that. I wanted to get it have it tattooed, but then I thought I'm getting too old for a new tattoo, that I still think about it all the time. Never be cruel, never cowardly, never give up, never give in. Nole temera, be not afraid. Finally, as noted in the New International Version of the Bible, Matthew 10:27, what I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. What that means to me is that when I know I am being guided by Spirit, state it. According to Kendra Graham, who is the wife of Will and the grandson of, Kendra Graham is the wife of Will, who is the grandson to Billy, okay? Kendra says, give me courage regarding Matthew 10:27. Give me courage to stand for truth when darkness gathers all around me and the forces of darkness try to shame and threaten me into silence. Give me courage to stand for truth when darkness gathers all around me and the forces of darkness try to shame and threaten me into silence. For people in New Thought, this passage can empower us to advocate for the lives and the values that we believe in. A world that works for everyone only works if we participate in laying the foundation it's built on, and so it is.